you're talking about the brain, the middle-aged brain, 40 to 68. So
Yeah.
what happened after 68? They go
No.
down?
No,
No
I think
hope?
what they know is that middle age, as we know, is a moving target as lifespans, stretch out. It's squishy. What is middle age? And the modern middle age is something brand new. One of the researchers I talked to said it was like researching astrophysics because no one has ever researched this before. So where does it start? Where does it end? I think you don't really know, but it is true that a lot of, on an average, on a population basis, the serious cognitive declines do not really start until the 70s, the ones we really worry about. And even then, it's relatively minor. And there are now enough of people they call pristine agers out there, people in their 80s, 90s, even beyond, who are fine. And again, enough of them to study. So things, as we all know, this is changing, and it's changing right in front of our eyes, so it's easy to take it for granted. So, yeah.
An extension of that question is, as you talked about the various characterizations of the middle-aged brain, I thought that many of them also for the decade or two after that are applicable. Is there anything in there that you feel is not applicable to those decades after middle age?
I think maybe they do believe that there's a little bit more, they see more variability in the middle age than they do later on. So I think, at least according to the curves that I've looked at, basically the brains start to go one way or the other. So I think by the time you get into your 70s and 80s, there's a little less variability, and you go back toward most people being on a level of some decline, just like in youth they're sort of the same, and then middle age they go like this. So I think that might be different. But again, it varies, but I think that's probably the biggest difference. You become more the same. Yeah.
So how do you convince the people that are out there, let's say your readers from your work? How do you convince the world that, the people that are between 40 and 68 are still viable contributors to society, and particularly in workplace environments?
Yeah, it's really hard. And I think as we've just gone through this recession, I mean, even I work at the New York Times, and we watched a lot of very good brains get kind of nudged out the door, and I was lucky in the end. A lot of them fought back and said, give me a desk, let me stay, and the company said, okay. And so those brains are still there. So they got a little flexibility. We still have their brains and stuff. So I think it's going to happen. I think it started more before this recession, and the recession is kind of screwing up a lot of the stuff that was moving in the right direction. And, as companies get, their bottom lines are not so good, that kind of thought goes out the window. So I do believe that there were some companies before the recession who were really trying, Borders, I think it was Borders, or Barnes & Noble, I forget which one, but one of them used to let people work part-time, sometimes in sunny climates, sometimes in not, when they were older. There was a lot of flexibility that was beginning in the workplace that was really encouraging. But I think the recession has kind of put the kibosh on that at the moment. So, I mean, on the other hand, I think we're also seeing, middle-aged people, older middle-aged people stay at work because they have to. And I think they're showing that they can. So I think this automatic idea that, a teacher leaves when they're 62 or something like that is not always the case anymore. And people are showing them by their activities that they're fine. So maybe that'll help in a way, too. Yeah.
Could I introduce some facts on this?
Yeah. Depends on how bad
From
they are.
1890 until 1990, from one decennial census to the next, the fraction of men aged 65 and over who are in the labour force declined.
Yeah.
From the early 1990s, it has gone up significantly. Mm-hmm. And even in this recession, although the labour force participation rate of these men has fallen, it has not fallen as much as most other groups. And the forecast that the Bureau of Labour Statistics has made of future labour force participation rates of older workers, both men and women, project rising rates. Now, the reason for this change is controversial, and a number of hypotheses have been put forward, but changing stock market values, changing rules of Social Security, a lot of some pension plan extensions, limitations. First pass at these explanations are not really satisfactory. I suspect it has more to do with innate health, but that is not as easy a hypothesis to test as it might seem.
In other words, you mean people feel better, they feel like they can work, and so they do. Yeah, I think that's true. And you know, you do hear on my training platform, and these guys going to Wall Street and stuff. You do hear that other thing though, that basically say, "Well, I was going to retire, but now look at I can't." You know, I'm sure they could, but they don't have as much as they thought they were going to have. So sorry, but so people do delay it, and so. But I do think, you know, I see people in their 70s, mid-70s. It's just becoming, even where I work. You know, more commonplace for people to be there and contributing, and I don't think we think it's so odd anymore.
Hi, I have a few things to ask or say, and I just came in a little while ago. I couldn't find a parking space.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't think people realize the impact that poor dental health can have on the brain. I just lost a friend who was 60. She died suddenly with an abscess to the brain, and it happens a lot more frequently than we were aware of. I don't know if you spoke about that, but really going out of your way to do the flossing and all those things can make a big deal of significance, because they now can look at the bacteria in the brain and connect it with the teeth. Have you talked about that?
No, but it's fascinating. It sounds like we should probably do a story on
and
that.
Then I don't think Sapolsky's in here, is he? No. Okay, he's done so much incredible work on the aging brain, you know, with animals and people. And when you're in the stress state too much, you produce too much cortisol to your brain. Did you talk about that?
No.
So, I mean, it's really something important to know about, that if you're staying in that high stress state, the same with anxiety, depression, untreated, there's a variety of mental health issues that can really cause deterioration in your brain.
Right.
And as a gerontologist, and I've been doing brain fitness since 2002. Right here on this campus, one of your graduates of a master's program, Alvaro Fernandez. I don't know how many of you know him. Sharp Brains. You bet you should write it down. www.sharpbrains.com. That is the site that gives the research summaries by the various neuroscientists, and will be invaluable to anyone who's really interested in pursuing some of this. It gives you the criteria to decide whether software is useful or not. And the last thing I'm going to say, if you didn't mention, I don't know if you mentioned John Rady's book.
No.
No, I just want to mention this. Dr. John Rady at Harvard wrote a book a few years ago called The New Revolutionary Science of Exercise and the Brain. It's in the bookstore here. I really highly recommend it.